We are an organization that works for a Southwest UK-based manufacturing SME and have been assigned the task of researching the cultural differences between the UK and another country and how these might affect the way the business will operate abroad. The country we have chosen to present our findings about is Brazil. We will first compare the cultural characteristics of the two countries, and then come to the conclusion as to whether or not the enterprise should offshore its production. Investigating on the cultural characteristics of the UK, we can identify that they tend to be individualistic, converging on emphasis on interdependence that a community holds among its members. With a score of 89, the UK is, along with other countries, one of the highest of individualist scores, meaning that British people are very individualistic and value individual rights. It can be said that their route to happiness is through self-fulfillment. Next, power distance refers to whether or not societies expect and accept inequalities in power and status amongst each other. The UK scores in the lower rankings of Power Distance Index, with a score of 35. With a PDI lower among higher class than the working class. A sense of fair play drives a belief that people should be treated in some way as equals. Uncertainty avoidance refers to the extent of which members of a society accept the risk and ambiguity within an organization. It deals with the preference of rules and structured situations as opposed to exposure to conflict. The UK don't feel threatened by uncertainty. With a low score of 35, the British react kindly in ambiguous situations. Masculine societies are those driven by competition, success and achievement, with success being defined as being the best. On the other hand, feminine societies are those where it's the quality of life itself that represents success. The UK scored 66 as a masculine society, meaning people's goals are oriented towards work and performance and not towards the overall well-being. As for the culture in Brazil, they tend to dislike leaders who are individualistic and take decisions without involving the group. They like to make sure that their team feels a part of decision-making. Latin America scored a 5.96 for team orientation when evaluated for CLT dimensions by Project Globe. The high power distance culture of Brazil means they value a formal relationship between the leader and followers in terms of their social and organizational level. They tend to expect their leaders to be conscious of class and status in the organization. Brazilian managers prefer to be more risk-averse when it comes to their approaches in the organization. Their high uncertainty avoidance means they are sensitive to conflict and respect for group harmony. At the same time, it is found that followers expect their leaders to induce conflict with members outside the group, as this reinforces membership and pride within their own units. Brazilian followers tend to be quite neutral when it comes to compassion in their leaders. Latin America scored a medium 4.85 for humane orientation by Project Globe. When evaluating the benefits of whether the enterprise should outsource its production, it would be useful to look at the similarities in their cultural characteristics, as this would result in less conflict when UK leaders work with Brazilian workforces. However, it can be seen that the only compatibility is their opinion on human orientation. The UK is said to have a masculine approach, having a focus on competition and assertiveness, while Brazilians tend to have a neutral stance on this aspect. Implications may arise as the UK and Brazil have different views when it comes to the other dimensions. The UK manager would need to take time to adapt to Brazilian culture, and so, the success of their leadership would be dependent of how well they can do this. This may be difficult due to the ratio of similarities to differences in their culture dimensions. For example, the UK leaders would have to make an effort to include their Brazilian followers in decisions to make them feel involved. Failure to not work in groups may result in demotivation of the workforce and a non-beneficial outsourcing venture. Similarly, they should be attentive to those in power, as well as those in other status positions, in order to respect Brazil's high power culture and not offend the followers. Furthermore, UK leaders should adopt a more cautious approach and avoid risk-taking. This may make the Brazilian followership uncomfortable and hinder the production of the outsourcing. In conclusion, we would recommend that the SME do not outsource their production to Brazil. Unless there are significant benefits regarding cheaper costs, for example, the major differences in the respective cultural characteristics would likely to cause difficulties that outweigh the advantages of the venture.